Okay, so we are recording. All right, so welcome. I'll just do my little spiel. I'm Bridget Fullerton from Writing at Bates. This workshop today is about engaging community in remote environments. I thought, I was thinking we could start with a Flipgrid activity. I don't know if you know what Flipgrid is. I'm just starting to play with it a little bit. I'm supposed to be teaching, I am teaching a fully remote, fully asynchronous course in FYS this fall. And so I am trying to find lots of ways to engage students from across the world and using technology. And I thought this one was kind of fun. I don't know Instagram, or I do use Facebook, but I think it's sort of like that. You can but you can post a topic and have students then record a video or audio response to your topic. And they can even comment on each other's posts. And you can even sort of protect it with a password. So students can go in with the password and post their response to your question. So I was hoping I want to pose a question to you and have you test out this Flipgrid technology with me, if you don't mind. You do not have to engage if you don't want to, but I just need to get the URL for it. And then I'm going to post it in the chat. Copy. Nope, can't do it that way. Link address, there we go. Chat. And if you click on that link, you can go to the Flipgrid page, and the password, if it's asking you for a password, is engage community with a capital E and a capital C, like that. I put that in the chat too. And what I would love for you to do is you can turn off your video and turn off your audio for our Zoom meeting and see if you can record a 30-second response to the question, how are you today and what are you excited about? So we'll spend, let's say 3 minutes on that and see if it works for you. And I'm just gonna I'll be here if you need me, I'll be hanging out. And you only have 30 seconds to talk when you record your response. Laura, I'm going to stop your video just so that you can, oh, there you go, great. I thought it might, I'm going to be quiet and let you guys figure it out, and then we'll come back together. So Laura is a little, I think she's trying to figure it out, but so as a next step, I believe we can comment on watch and comment on each other's posts. So if you will, keeping your mute on, I think it should work that you can hear each other's posts, and will you just listen to one and comment on it, make a comment, an affirming comment of some sort that sort of affirms and empathizes with the person's experience, or say how it relates to your own in some way.
And how do we do that, Bridget? Do we just click on the picture?
I believe so. There's a little bubble.
Oh, I see.
Underneath.
The bubble? Okay.
And I think if you click on the picture, it should play. I'm going to try 1, 2.
Bridget, I can see what you're sharing, but I can't click on anybody's.
Same.
So is everybody not being able to look at your own browser and see everybody's videos? Nobody's able to see each other's
So
videos.
wait, we should be in our browser, not on Zoom?
You should, right. So you can have like the Zoom video or Zoom space kind of up in a corner, and then post that link I gave you into your browser.
Bridget.
Yeah.
I am excited and happy to
Oh,
be.
that's me.
Okay.
That's just my video. And me completely forgetting what it was supposed to say by the time I'd hit all the buttons.
Yeah, I figured it out. I was in Zoom, not in.
Well,
Yes.
to learn about Flipgrid. It looks a lot more
Now I
exciting.
can hear all of you.
Yeah, now we're.
Okay. So if you can click on, right, there we go.
So I'm also wondering, I think I'm back on Zoom. I hope. I think I'm back on Zoom. Bridget, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm trying to figure out also, because I've got Flipgrid on my phone. So I was trying to be super cool and and go straight from the phone, because I'm envisioning, okay, you know, have them read something in class, go out, walk around, record a little selfie video on Flipgrid, and then come back to class. We can watch these and have a discussion. So how, I guess I would go back to, oh, there's the code. And so I would enter that code, right? The B30.
To get back to the page? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like flipgrid.com / and then the code would get you to the page with all of the posts.
To your page. Oh, wait, I must have.
So Bridget, I tried to leave a comment. I'm not sure if I actually did or if I just recorded some new random video.
I just saw yours, Andy. It made me laugh. Yeah, I'm wondering about, there's, yay.
Nope.
There's Marcel. So mine was kind of going through each of the posts, and I thought you would be able to comment in text, but mine was prompting me to comment via video. Is that what was happening to you all?
Yeah, and I know that Flipgrid allows you to comment via video, but like if I look at Kirk's, it says he has 2 comments. but like I can't access them.
Let's see.
Yeah, I just commented on Bridget's, so I don't know where that would show up, but there's one comment. Yeah, well,
I can't see the comments either. Does anybody know about comments on Flipgrid?
I'm able to access the comments.
How do you do it, Marcel?
I'm on the Flipgrid website.
Yep.
So I clicked on Kirk's and I scrolled down and I see a comment from Andrea.
oh, there we go. Yeah.
Bonjour, je vais bien. Je suis heureux d'être ici. Merci Brigitte de nous inviter.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Well, for some reason, I can't see comments, but there's got to be a way, and I'm just not able to figure it out.
Are you sure you're on the site and not in?
Je suis heureux d'être ici. Merci Brigitte de nous inviter.
Say that again, Kirk.
Are you sure you're on the site
What?
and not in Zoom? Because that was my problem.
Hey, I'm Bridget. I'm feeling. I keep hearing all of the videos.
Rushed in my
Is that my own? Oh my
presentation.
gosh, I'm sorry.
It's been quite a week,
All right,
many hours.
I am going to close out of this for right now. All right, so let's see here.
Bottom line, very cool. I think with I think this could work. It's just a matter of all
Figuring
of us
it out.
No, I think it's a Zoom versus website, and I think I'm going to use it. It's definitely fun.
Yeah, I'm so good. Okay, well, today is a bit wonky, and I have some other content prepared, but you know, playing with some of the technologies that are out there is just sort of part of the game right now, and I'm really curious as to how we can use some of these technologies, not to build community like this, and actually flubbing it with our students, I think, you know, can be instructive to them. But perhaps we want to be a bit more practiced before we actually engage it. And
I am thrilled that you've done this because as I said, yesterday I had downloaded Flipgrid on my phone, and so now I just went outside, you know, recorded a quick video, came back in, and I can see this as a great tool to, you know, you were talking at the first how we're, you know, information overload. And I think if anything, what this moment is telling us is that, yes, we can exchange information online. I can send a PDF file. I could send a folder to anyone. There's a lot of information, but making meaning is something that involves our whole body and movement and breath. And so I'm loving, I really enjoyed this little opportunity to see how it worked. And it was just pressing in the code for the students. It's very, very seamless. And obviously, you know, at some point I would just be shutting off Zoom, and then they can come back to class. We can watch the videos and we can move on to some writing exercise. So
that's great.
yay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Laura. I love
Bridget,
that you went
do you
outside
know,
too. That's great. Yeah.
Bridget, do you know if this is integrated onto the Lyceum? Like if it's one of the things you can just add? No, it's not, Laura.
I don't think
so.
I don't
Okay.
think so, but yeah,
Because I know it can be integrated with those systems. I just didn't know if our CRC department had done that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
my recollection is no.
And Marcel, I did see at one point when I was playing with this, I don't know exactly if it does captioning, but I did see a button somewhere along the way that did say something about accessibility, and I think it had to do with captioning. So I want to play around with that a bit, but I believe it does. I'm sure it does because it's kind of geared towards educators. So that's kind of a thing now. Okay, cool. So thanks for being guinea pigs there and just rolling with that with me. I'm excited to keep, testing the possibilities of that. So today, just talking and thinking with you about how we build community interaction and metacognition through writing using technology. And today, so one of the things that I think is really important is, like my goal right there was just to get us involved in some kind of warm-up activity to build community amongst ourselves. And that can be, you can do zillions of things. Somebody recently said, don't call them icebreakers anymore because that's icy, call them warm-up activities. So I love that. I'm just gonna keep repeating that because we could all use a little warmth right now. Not heat, but kindness. But it's really important to think about, before we jump into a technology, to think about what are our learning goals? Like, what are we trying to do? And what experience for our students are we trying to create? Because the technologies we use certainly influence the meaning that students can make, like you were saying, Laura. And so what kinds of meaning are we asking them to make out of in the writing and in the technology that they're doing and using in our classrooms? So for example, I talked a little, I did this slide in a FYS workshop, so forgive me for the repetition, but this is something that I've been thinking more closely about as my learning goals for my courses, and assuring that my writing experiences that I'm asking my students to engage in align with the level of learning I want them to be engaged in. So at the Bloom's taxonomy, sort of the levels of learning taxonomy. At the CBB conference, they also introduced us to Finx Taxonomy. So that's another one you can use. There are 2 other taxonomies. This is cognitive for Bloom, also has affective and psychomotor taxonomies. So you can look into those if you're more in the arts or interested in sort of the affective domain of your students. But just for an example, I'm using the cognitive Bloom's taxonomy and thinking about what kinds of writing experiences do I want my students to engage in order to grapple with content at one of these levels. So for example, if I want students to produce new or original work, I'm asking them to create something. I want to make sure that my writing experience actually has them doing that. So for example, they're collaborating with peers to develop a proposal for a problem that they've wrestled with the entire semester, or they're designing a garden to support the community. So we're really thinking about, this is like big time end of semester project. If we're wanting them to evaluate something, appraise, argue, defend, judge, we want to make sure the writing experience we're engaging them in asks them to do just that. So compare 2 authors' perspectives, evaluate their use of evidence, judge or defend the soundness of one of those. Analysis, asking students to draw connections among ideas, differentiate, compare, contrast. So distinguish between several causes of a phenomenon or examine the pros and cons of an idea. To apply knowledge or skills, they use information they're learning in class in new situations. So relating a course concept to their own lives, using a theoretical lens to interpret a cultural or social event. Understanding, if you want your students simply to describe concepts or discuss concepts, that's summarization or paraphrase or an argument. And then sort of the bottom of the taxonomy is just recall basic concepts, memorization. And so ask them to identify causes or define a term. So knowing what your goals are is always where to start when you're talking about engaging community and using writing to do that. Also, you want to be aware of the writing process stage. So where are students in the process of writing? Are they sort of at the beginning where they're generating ideas, they're brainstorming, they're just inventing things, inventing ideas together? Are they moving on to more outlining, flow charting, mapping their ideas? They actually have some ideas now, and they're moving on towards a bit more organizing. Are they drafting? This is very much low stakes writing. Are they first attempts? They're grappling with the content. They're trying to think about what it is they're want to write about and what they know about, what they still need to find out more about. Are they in the stage where they're asking for feedback and peer review, or feedback from the instructor, or feedback from an ARC writing tutor or content tutor? And are they actually then integrating that feedback and thinking about revising what they've written? And revision is a bit more, we think of that as more global changes, and we try to talk to students about that. Or are we asking them to engage in more like lower order proofreading, editing stuff? And that happens more at the end of the process, right before they're ready to present. And then, or are they very much ready for summative feedback and giving a final presentation to present their work to a public? So not only knowing what level of, what type of thinking needs to go into this writing assignment, what level of that cognitive scale, or knowing what process, where they are in the process is important to consider the technologies and how to build community in each of those moments. Yeah, Kirk.
I'm just wondering where in this process, and if it doesn't belong, that's fine, but where does, I'm looking at my W-2 and thinking the lit review or the annotated bibliography, sort of comparing or assessing other similar kinds of writing so that you create sort of an expectation or about the genre that they're actually writing. Yeah. Is there a place in here to?
Yeah, I mean, that can be at any stage, really. And it's important to know this is recursive. I kind of put it on what looks a little bit like a linear scale, but it's, you know, you will draft and then go back to brainstorming. But as far as looking at models and trying to, I mean, for me, sometimes it's beneficial to have students jump into a genre and just give it a shot before they know what they're doing. It's almost like asking them to do the final project the first day of class. Because by the end they're like, and then save that and see how far they've come and how far along in their idea processing they've gotten. So, you know, you could simply have them jump into it, writing in the genre that you want, maybe fumble a little bit, and then come back and talk about it as sort of an idea generation brainstorming moment. Or, you know, give them a model and have them work through it and really analyze it, particularly the sort of rhetorical aspects, like who is the audience for this genre? What is the context that these genres appear? What kinds of logical appeals, like how do they, you know, I'll get to this in a minute, but you can do a rhetorical reading of a model as a way to get them to start thinking about it. And you can even do that with other student models of papers that have been completed, lit reviews or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of just be aware of where you're throwing it at them, what stage they're in, and you know, plan accordingly for whether they'll be like ready for it or totally flummoxed. Yeah, and then at the top, you know, it's really, there's a lot of research that says getting students to reflect on their writing processes throughout the process really helps them transfer learning from not only from one draft to the next or from assignment to assignment in your class, but also from your class to other classes. So think about when you're choosing technologies or choosing ways to engage them, what am I having them do? Where are they in the process? And it helps to think, just what came to me as I was thinking about this, what helps for me to think about too is the modality that we're asking students to engage in. Kathleen Blake Yancey, who's a scholar in the field of composition studies, gave a speech at our 2004 College Composition Communication, which is our big conference in our field, called Made Not Only in Words, and then it was reprinted in one of our academic journals. And I feel like what she said in 2004 is pretty, it's still relevant today, but in different ways. She was talking about sort of the change, the technological move in writing studies from print to all these other modes that students and humans have at their disposal. And so it's come to be known as multiliteracies or multimodal writing, multimodal composition in our field. And every field has a way of talking about this, particularly arts and design. But this is how we talk about it. And it just has helped me to think about engaging my students in technology And she writes, we have a moment, literacy today is in the midst of a tectonic change. I'd say even now, it's even, there's a new tectonic change happening, where even inside of school, never before have writing and composing generated such diversity and definition. And I remember talking about composition and composing as sort of a broad, expansive way of thinking about writing with somebody here at Bates when I first started in technology. It was in research, the research department. And he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you talking about writing or are you talking about composing? Like, what's the difference? Like, they're totally different. I was like, no, actually, we're trying to think more expansively about it now. And so thinking expansively about it helps me to think about how I'm going to engage my students in different modalities as a way to engage them in community. Oh, and so the New London group in 1996, even pre-Yancey, was thinking about design and how elements of design interface with writing, meaning like writing on what they call alphanumeric text, so just paper and A's, B's, and C's, and 1, 2s, and 3s. And they wanted to broaden the definition of writing and to have writing instructors and people who teach writing think much more broadly about it. And they came up with sort of these 5 areas or 5 ways that we can engage in meaning making. And they posited that there was this linguistic way of meaning making, which was alphanumeric, but we also think about, in pushing us to think more about also audio and oral ways of making meaning, spatially ways of making meaning, visual and gestural, so movement. And it's been bantered around and taught and engaged in throughout, university composition courses since then. And it continues to be relevant today that, really all our writing is multimodal. And this is a threshold concept in our field of writing studies. And Cheryl Ball and Colin Charlton just wrote up a little bit about it in Naming What We Know, Threshold Concepts of Writing Studies, that, historically, we often think about the focus on writing, and sometimes speech is solely alphanumeric or linguistic. But the term mode has this historical perception of, was reserved for defining the rhetorical modes of exposition, argumentation, description, narration. But with this multimodal theory, we've complicated that, and we're now thinking about sound, texture, movement, all as part of what our students can do and what we should have them practice doing at any stage of the writing process as a way to engage in the writing process. But they all matter and they all make sense. And so when we're thinking about, what our goals and what we want our students to do, we want to be clear with them when we're asking them to engage in some kind of meaning making activity, that we're clear about who the audience is going to be. Like, for the example, the audience for this first activity for us was just us. So it was low stakes. The purpose was getting to know each other and kind of flubbing through some technology together. The context is, this moment that we're in, where we're being called upon to be teachers in very new ways. And that created a text. And the text was both our class page with all of our videos on it, and the genre was like this Flipgrid social media thing. And we created that text together in real time, which is really neat. And it had aspects of audio, visual, textual, or linguistic, and spatial in that particular text that we created that came out of this context for this audience and purpose. And we engaged, it was mostly sort of us engaging with our, trying to have our readers and our viewers have some kind of emotional response to our posts. We gained trust by, well, we know each other, so we kind of already have that, but also we could empathize with each other and the fact that we're all in this moment together. And there was not really a need for logic here in this particular activity that we did, but it's important, I think, when we're thinking about and talking about writing with our students, that we're clear about what we're asking them to do and how we want them to gain the trust of their readers, how we want them to show what's at stake and use logic in the text they create. Other considerations are thinking about whether we're asking students to do this just to learn and grapple. It's low stakes, low tech, short, it's not graded, messy thinking is good, it's a private audience, or whether we're asking them to do something much more higher stakes. And so in any kind of writing assignment, you know, we try to think beyond just the final writing assignment. There's so much more that goes into writing, and you don't actually, you know, as long you are teaching writing all the time in the ways that you use it in your classes, and that the types of writing that students engage in are on a continuum, and it's really good to be clear with students about that continuum and where they are when you assign it to them. So I was hoping we could use some time right now to do another group activity. And there's a link to a Google slide. And right now, I'm sure, like, I have lots of ideas about how you can engage students in community while also thinking about different modalities that they can use to create meaning together. And so this link I'm going to share in the chat to this Google slide. And I think what I'll do is, can we do like a group of two? How many? What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe we can do 2 groups, just 2 groups. And hang on, let me get the link and then I'll explain. Okay, so you should be able to get to the Google slide that's going to be a shared Google slide, Google Slides file. And if you pop in, I'm just asking you to, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms for, I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so. Have you just discuss ideas? You know, I threw a lot at you, so none of it may have resonated, some of it may have resonated, that's fine, but it's just to get us thinking about modalities and community together. So how do we build community interaction and metacognition or reflection through writing and using technology? Really, we can just even forget the metacognition part, that's like a whole nother thing, but really just how do we build community and interaction? Although oftentimes when we're engaging in community interaction through writing, we're engaging in reflection. So linguistic, audio, visual, gestural, and spatial. So thinking about how can we engage our students through text, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, using certain technologies. How can we engage them in the audio or oral mode, in whether it's, you know, at the beginning of the process or at the end of the process of writing, whether it's between each other thinking about ideas or us giving feedback to students. So depending on the activity or the goal, how might we engage them, or what are our thoughts about that? Visual, how are we using visual, engaging students in the visual mode and through technologies? And you may, I mean, it may be very low tech. You don't have to go high tech here, but if you want to add some ways that you are asking students to write or compose using visual modalities or visual technologies, please do think about that together. Gestural, so body and movement, how are you asking students to use that as part of their writing process? And spatial, so how writing or a composition appears in space or on a page. How do you get students to think about that together? So in your groups, will you just talk about how you'd like to build community among you and your students, and maybe even tutors and TAs? Just someone can write some ideas down on a paper, so you're just sort of brainstorming together. And then how can you engage students in each of the modes of composition as a way to do this? What technologies might you use to engage in that? And it can be low tech or high tech, anything that the group comes up with. And add a new slide and creatively together just engage any of the modes at your disposal to summarize the best of your discussion points for the rest of the group. And we'll take some time at the end, probably 15 minutes or so, to just talk about what you came up with. So does that make sense? kind of. Okay. I'm going to try breakout rooms. I've never done this before, so I am going to just split you evenly into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did I say? 2 groups. We'll do 2 groups. Okay. There we go. Let's give it a shot. Breakout rooms, 7 participants, 2 groups automatically. Okay, here you go. And I will time this. Let's try for 20 minutes. So 5 after 3, we'll meet back. Okay. Hey.
Hi.
I think I'm getting like major rain in my windows. So just give me a sec. Sorry.
Sure. We were talking the other day about how much we miss like moving around while talking, and
Okay, that's better.
yeah.
Okay, we're all back. So by the way, breakout rooms, I don't know if you've used them all yet, but they're really cool and easy to use, not hard at all. It splits everybody up automatically, or you can choose. I can move people between rooms. I could drop into rooms.
Remind me, is it in participants that I've done this, but is it in participants or where is the?
If you're the host, you'll have a little box on the bottom black.
You have to be a host, okay.
Yeah, it'll say breakout rooms. And then anytime you close the rooms, it gives everybody a minute automatically. Okay, I am going to share the slides that you created or did not create.
Oops.
That's okay. I actually didn't have you all on editing with editing permissions, so sorry about that. But maybe we can start with breakout room 1 and give you guys a few minutes to talk about what you came up with as far as building community with certain technologies. And so breakout 1, group room 1, do you all want to just talk about what you came up with as far as how
you want
engage?
one? Wait.
Who is one? Is that
Do you
Laura?
want one of us to talk? Yes. So
That'd be awesome. Yeah, all of you, whoever wants to talk.
I couldn't figure out if I was muted or not. So yes. So first idea that's come from Kirk. To use a Flipgrid intro video recorded at home in the door, share in class. The one limitation initially in the last few days, I was thinking, oh, we could just do this when we actually meet in class, download Flipgrid on your phone, and here is your first assignment, go out into, walk around Lake Andrews. But then I realized, oh, they would be masked. So maybe this needs to be done before class or the first assignment that night. So yeah, this other idea is to have an expressive reading of a text and to really spend time reading it, rereading it, figuring out where to pause, how to breathe, how to emphasize certain words, how to also connect with the audience. And so Kirk and I were going back and forth on this. I would be fine with them not memorizing it because this would often happen in the real world, but to look at the screen. Instagram posts, and then the idea of hashtags. So a picture that confronts, amplifies a summary of a concept, a book, a theme, and then add hashtags. How cool is that to really publicize your reflection on some text, and then assessing fact from fiction when listening something versus reading something, and how important that is, especially these days with alternative facts, although that might be going to rest, who knows. Yeah, so did I miss something, Karen?
Nope, I would not, nope.
Okay.
Those are great. Yeah, I
And
hear
yeah.
all of, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just, I'm thinking we're breakout room, but also dropout time.
Yeah.
So some time where they're given a guided question, go out, walk, reflect, record on Flipgrid, come back, and let's listen and use that as a jumping off point.
Ooh. Laura, you also had the idea of having them, I didn't get this on there, having them handwrite something.
Oh yeah. So the other, right. So another very easy thing to do is, so reflect on something, maybe go sit down somewhere else, reread this passage, reflect on it, handwrite something, and then take a picture of it, use it as your virtual background.
Cool. That's awesome.
And yes, and we also talked about putting some big pieces of paper in the classroom if we're teaching in class, and having students at different times walk up and write on a sticky note on that board as well. And again, there are the limitations of how many people, the 6 foot distance, etc. So maybe you just get up when inspiration strikes, as long as you're not going to strike into someone.
Just in terms of that sticky note concept, I mean, we talked in our group about, several have been to the Google Pad thing. I forget what it is, but it was incredible. Jamboard. And you just, you wrote a Post-it and you slipped it up there and you had it virtually. And that's the safest way, obviously, of doing that. And you can save it and it's automatically saved. And I just wondered, though, are people thinking of having all your students with a Chromebook in class so that they can do synchronous stuff with the people who are zooming in or not?
Oh yeah.
It seems like a good thing to have.
Yes.
Then everything is paperless.
Right. Yes, everything is paperless, and it's true. Sticky notes are recyclable, but again, I guess where we were going with that was also the idea of getting up and moving.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally.
But yes, Karen mentioned also Jamboard.
Yeah, I mean, the technology, there are limitations to smartphones, but they allow for greater movement. But maybe that's not, like you said, a good thing in a classroom that's trying to socially distance. So yeah, it's not only thinking about the software, but the hardware is important. It's going to be trial and error, I think, for a lot of it. Thank you. How about, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question about Jamboard? Does that work where you have to sort of share your screen, or all the students are just sort of logged in via Google and they stick their notes up there?
Yep, it's just like what we did for the Google Slides, except basically instead of sharing a Google Slide document where everybody can create slides, you're sharing a whiteboard, which is like a big blank page, and students can choose either to post text, post pictures, use Post-it notes to post text on, I think, or video too. I think video's on there too. So it's basically like a big whiteboard that can just be for Post-it notes, but you can, jazz it up. And plus they can draw with just like their cursor. So yesterday in our workshop, somebody, the professors were writing like, hello, hi. Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you.
Students can annotate each other's sticky notes too, which is kind of nice.
Oh.
And they can do it anonymously, I believe.
Laura, you were talking about having, just when you're using sticky notes in class, you've got your students up and moving. And I'm thinking now that with all the spacing we need, are you still thinking you might be able to get them up somehow, or?
I think if I were to think through that exercise, it would be only one person at a time. You've got a sticky, maybe you write on your sticky and then go place it where you want. Maybe we're mapping out something, mapping out an argument, or yeah, and so yeah, I would only have one person at a time.
So, and I'm just wondering, you know, again, as the rubber's hitting the road here, it's like, okay, but what about that student in Dakar who is not here? So that, and maybe they're just going to do this all asynchronously. But if there were someone, maybe it could be an interesting task for each class. There's a videographer. Someone's going to, you know, film the person going up and posting the sticky notes, and film or take a picture of the sticky notes up there. Because I prize as well the get up and move your body around and encouraging that. But then for the experience of people who can't be in classroom, I mean, you can't make it perfect, but maybe having someone, a documentarian for each class, to give that.
Thanks for reminding me, Kurt. Yeah, obviously there would need to be someone who would be the porte sticky note, porte-parole.
To underscore also, there will probably be students on campus who are going to be quarantined at times or sick at times too. And so thinking about accessibility for those students.
You can also do classroom capture in a lot of your classes, so that, like, I just met with the Bens today and about just being able to record the view of the whole classroom. So even if it's asynchronous, like if I have students there, but the other students can't zoom in, I can record, maybe not record the entire class, maybe take out chunks of it, because otherwise it'd be a really long video to watch.
Yeah.
And they can get it that way.
I can imagine having those students who are unable to be in the class to watch that recording, edited maybe and captioned offline asynchronously, and then perhaps try to, I don't know, maybe they have the task of sort of looking at all of the post-its that students created if they were able to, and doing some kind of reflection or response to that, which then you bring into the classroom the next time.
That's a great
and really pull, you know, noting where you got it from and thanking them for their input.
Right.
So they feel part of the conversation.
Absolutely. Making them kind of lead the discussion from whatever's been started or brainstormed in the class, and giving them a real sense of ownership in that activity. I like that.
Yeah.
So I was going to have students in small groups be responsible for a week of note-taking, and then post that so that anybody who had to miss class would have access to it, and then allow anybody in the class to annotate it and ask questions on it. So that's going to count as both low-stakes writing and participation.
That's great. I used to do that. In particular, I did it when I knew I had a student that was had a hearing impairment. So I made sure that every class I had a note taker. I didn't say that was what it was for, but I just said every class somebody's going to be a note taker, and every student had access to that, and it rotated, so it wasn't just one person. Love that.
Alex, my colleague Alex, has done that, and it was born out of, again, a student who was had needed accommodations and needed a note taker, and it was again, universal design. It was great for everybody. You had to be writing furiously in French. You had to not worry about low stakes, high stakes, grammar. You know, it was great. It was actually a wonderful exercise.
Anything else to add from the other group? That you discussed that you didn't get, that we didn't talk about yet?
I think one of the things we discussed was, you know, some exercises that could be done individually, but are perhaps can also benefit from being done collectively. So for instance, you know, the screening of kind of, you know, short documentaries or sections of videos, using, you know, course time to do that, so then that, you know, students can actually engage with each other and reflect with each other. And yeah, I don't know if Kirk or Andi, you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, that's qualitatively different, as we all know, to watch together rather than watch under the covers in your bed alone. And some of there's this H5P technology as well, which some people are using, where you actually, it's sort of like perusal, but you can do it with videos. I guess you can do all these with multiple platforms, but it shows you actually actively reading and digesting and asking questions as you watch or as you listen. I'm a little too old school for that. I think I would probably just sit in class with them in real time, split the screen and have the Zoomers and the video running, and then together sort of comment, maybe stop and start together and comment upon it as we go through, but, or just wait until we've all, we're all in tears or in laughter at the end of the video, and then we discuss together. I just kind of like the collective viewing and commenting is good. And we have to get, I have to get over the fact that that is dead time, that's wasted time. You can flip all that, they can come. I think actually the communal act of appreciating art together is worth the time, and it counts as contact hours, and yay. So I don't know.
I totally agree. That's how my in-person class time, not exclusively, but there will be a lot of communal video film watching. Maybe they've watched the beginning at home or in their dorm or remotely, and there are a few guiding questions to start the common viewing. But yes, I see that as very making meaning together.
Yeah. There is a really neat new, I've heard about it at I think it was the CBB, Pedagogy Matters one-day conference, the spatial chat. It's spatial.chat. And there's a cool demo. You can even go in and try it, but you can post, I believe, video content into it, and everyone can join the room and watch the video together. And I think I might use it for like coffee hours and office hours. But basically students wander around a room. You can decorate it and create it into like your office or a cafe. And students walk around the room and they just drag what group they want to go to or what area of the room they want to go to. And then the volume slowly comes up when they get near a group, and then it slowly goes down as you walk away. So it kind of simulates being in a room together. I don't know if you can like integrate that with film or clips, but perhaps there's some use there. So that might be something to play with.
It's just amazing, all the technology that's coming out.
I know, it really is.
But the one thing that I got from that CBB intensive workshop way back is that shouldn't drive our pedagogy. Like those are just tools, and I do get sometimes a little shiny new toy, but it's really what's the end goal, what's the objective, and let's go back, figure out how to get there.
Yeah, because your students will pick up on that too. They're like, why are we doing this?
Right.
So I have a bunch of ideas for each of the modes, and thinking about how we can engage students collaboratively in these particular modes of composing. But I'm not going to go through them. And in fact, we talked about many of them. But again, you can go back through this because I'll make this available to you. But really, like Lori said, it is about, what are we doing? What's our purpose? And then decide what modes might we engage to, sort of engage the whole student and the whole learner, because students learn differently, and each mode kind of engages a different part of their ability. So it's good for universal design to engage always, not just through alphabetic text or video or speaking, but gestural and spatial as well. So think about your goals for the class, and then what particular synchronous technologies or asynchronous technologies you could use to engage students in them. One of the things that I loved, I went to a conference in college composition communication, and they talked about having an entry song, and I was really nervous to do it in my classrooms. Sort of like, you know, baseball players come out on the field and there's a song that always plays, but like, what is they had us think about our entry song for our classrooms. And I love having this. I'm much more apt to try this in a remote setting. And it's nice to have music playing in the background when somebody joins a room. So that's something I think I'm going to try on our first FYS meeting next week. And you know, there are ways to engage music and sound for brainstorming and actually for applying concepts and for giving feedback on writing, just audio recording your feedback. Students love to hear your voice. And there's even a function for that in Lyceum assignments where you can just click and give audio feedback and you're kind of done. And I've got some ideas here for video, which, you know, we went through a lot of, but, you know, having students create a video on YouTube and closed captioning it is kind of a neat thing to have them walk through that process. And by the way, Marcel, I checked on Flipgrid and all of your videos were captioned. So whether you chose to caption them or not, they are captioned. So, or at least, and I can click on the CC button and see the caption. So it's all done for you in Flipgrid. Screencast-O-Matic or some kind of screen capture software is great for giving feedback to students on writing, or where you can pull up their writing. You can use your cursor to highlight things, and then a little picture of you appears in the corner, and you can record up to 15 minutes for free. It's a great way to give feedback on writing assignments. And thinking about the gestural, I love the idea of a name toss activity, which is having students, first they have their names up, and basically the game is you say someone's name and say, okay, Laura, you're up. Or you can, if you're in person, you pass a ball. So you might just pretend with your students that you're passing a ball. But I would say like, Laura, and you would say, thank you, Bridget. And you go, Kirk. And Kirk would say, thank you, Laura, and Andy. And then you ask students to rename themselves on Zoom, which they can do in the top right-hand 3-dot little blue square at the top of your box where your face is. It says rename, and you can rename yourself and then try to have everybody remember each other's names and do the same activity. So I thought that was kind of fun. Yeah, and another thing that we learned in the conference that I went to, the workshop, was using each other's or your bodies or objects in your screen area to create an idea, recreate an idea that you're writing or thinking about, or a concept that you're learning about, and putting it together in either in a breakout room, when then you all come back and you know, try, each person has a part that they act out, or just hold a position. And it was really fun. I mean, everyone has to be trusting and on board for it, but it was really fun to get up and move around and try to, you know, think about your ideas in a different way. And then you have everybody ask questions and you move the participants based on the feedback you get. So it's kind of gesturally showing revision in process. So that was cool. And then spatially, I talked about spatial chat. And even just having students like think about resizing their writing really big, reading sentences backwards, that helps with editing and revision. And then sharing some student writing and just talk about why they chose to use bold, italics, underlines, headings, margins, like talk about the spatial elements of a text can be really, and it helps to ask students ahead of time if you can talk about their texts and the choices they made. But centering student writing can be a really powerful way of getting students to see how social the experience of writing can be. Okay, so start with your learning goals. Think about the text you want them to create. Be clear about your audience, purpose, character, emotions, logic. Consider where they are in the process and whether this is low or high stakes. And then choose the modality and technology. Then choose the modality and technology that suits your purpose for the community building. Start small, try one new thing, and have fun. And I had fun with you all today, so thank you for being a part of this. Yeah, any last minute thoughts before we wrap up? Oh, we're 2 minutes over, apologies.
That was great, Bridget, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
very much.
No problem. You all be well. I'll post this recording on YouTube, and the Google Slides will go out as well to all people who attended, and share the wealth with friends,
Right.
and be well and move. All right.
See you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.